Good afternoon, Hazal. Welcome to our Women Who Make It Happen series. Thank you very much for agreeing to meet with me today. It'd be good for the audience to understand a bit more about how you got to where you are to date.
Really happy to be here. I love having these conversations, and if I can help the dialogue, I'm really happy to. So I'm the Senior Director of Analytics at Wise.
Yep.
I have about 12 years or so under my belt. I really stumbled upon analytics by fault, or by accident, let's say. I studied mathematics, economics, and psychology, and when I was studying data science, I'm sure it existed, but it was not as popular as it is today.
Now,
and it definitely didn't exist as a discipline that you can study in university. So I did the combination that I did, thinking that I would do behavioral economics, something along those lines. And then I moved to New York after I graduated and stumbled upon the tech scene and the data scene. And the types of problems I think that my community at the time was working on really excited me. I thought I could apply a lot of the skills that I have to this exciting data domain. I liked the idea of applying analytical thinking to solving exciting problems that maybe resonated with what I was passionate about. Kind of taught myself how to do coding. There were a lot of resources at the time. I think there are a lot more resources today.
Definitely.
So much more. And got a job at LinkedIn as a data analyst, and that's kind of how my data journey started.
Okay.
I started as an individual contributor, as many people do. Initially, the role that I had was more around sales analytics.
Yes.
LinkedIn is a business-to-business company, so a lot of the data and insights that we produced really went into closing deals and making sure that different companies saw value in what LinkedIn was doing.
It's a good platform.
It's a great platform. I really love the mission. I think a lot of what LinkedIn stands for is about economic opportunity to people who may not have really developed networks. You know, their mothers and fathers know somebody in a fancy company and they get a job that way. I think it really democratized access to opportunity.
Yes, absolutely.
And based on my background, that was a mission that I really believed in. So it was really cool to be a part of that company and be able to start my analytics journey there. But when I was there, I started being really interested in people management, working with other people, but also the product side of things. Not necessarily using data and insights on the sales side, but really getting close to how the decisions are made on the product side, and doing that through a larger team.
Yes.
So that's kind of how my career then evolved, more towards the product side and then later people management. And over the last 4.5 years or so, I've been at Wise. Formerly TransferWise. I moved from New York to London around that time.
Big move then.
Big move. And I was thinking about what type of company I wanted to work for. Again, I'm a huge believer in choosing, if you have let's say the luxury to do so, choosing companies that really align with your value proposition. Yes,
I think it's important, isn't it?
It's really important, especially in our discipline. A lot of the insights that you produce is quite contextual. So if you don't care about the problem that you're solving, I think it only gets you so far.
Yes.
So I have an international background. I lived overseas now almost half my life, and Wise was a product that I was using. So when I saw that there was a role, I was quite interested in being a part of the company.
So did you proactively approach them yourself out of interest?
So when I was moving from New York to London, I've applied to a bunch of jobs. I didn't really know about the London market. This is actually something I tell people when they ask about, your journey and they see that you've gotten to, like, from their perspective, a successful point.
Yes.
They always look for the silver bullet answer. And I tell everybody with pride that I've gotten rejected from more places that I would ever want to talk about, right?
Yeah.
I really don't want anybody who listens to this or anybody who's looking for a job to think that, you know, there are some really successful people who get every job that they apply for.
Yes.
We were moving countries for personal reasons. I wanted to be closer to my family who are Turkish. And I didn't really know what that journey looked like. Yeah. So I sent resumes to a lot of places. Some of them rejected, some of them I didn't like. It was a multi-month process.
Yes. It does take a long time to find
It takes
the right
a really
role.
long time. It's really hard in the job market.
Yep.
Now, as somebody who's been hiring a lot over the last couple of years, you need very specific people for very specific things.
Yes.
So when you're the applicant, you have a tendency to take things very personally.
Yeah.
and I've realized that shouldn't be the case.
No, you can't do that.
Yeah, and ultimately it's a numbers game. There's some luck involved. The best you can do is to kind of put yourself out there as much as possible, and
Absolutely.
hope that you find a job that you're excited about. But WISE was top of my list, kind of a stretch goal at the time that I had chosen for myself. So I feel fortunate to have gotten the opportunity.
Why was it a stretch, out of interest?
So the role was, I was leading people before I left LinkedIn, and I knew I wanted to do people management, but the role at WISE was really to scale the team, which was something I hadn't done before. So WISE had maybe about 40 or 50 analysts at the time. They were reporting into product managers and not analytics leadership, because such a org didn't exist.
Yes.
So my manager was hired to build out and define what the function looks like, and then hired a bunch of managers underneath him to really grow the team.
Yeah.
Since then, we've grown it from 40, 50 to close to 300.
Wow.
And the team that I was supposed to lead at the time was only 7 people, I think.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So
and now I have over 52 directly reporting to me. So that's a
direct report.
Yes. Underneath me, and then
the team.
I've got managers.
I was going to say that's a bit difficult. Direct reports.
But that was something that I hadn't really done before, right? And it's you've got multiple layers of leadership challenges underneath you. I had exposure to having just direct reports, no skip levels. I hadn't really grown and developed a lot of leaders underneath me, which is something that I had to do as I was growing the team, because I'm a huge believer in developing people internally.
Yes.
So these are all different things that I didn't necessarily have hands-on experience. I was really eager to, but you need to find the right people that see the right mix in your skill set that will take that chance on you. So it was a stretch in that perspective. And it's been a really great journey.
Brilliant. Going back to growing up, was there anybody that particularly motivated you to want to be successful in your career?
A lot of people and circumstances, let's say. I come from a family that had very humble means financially, and my mom was a housewife, looked after myself and my brother, and we were kind of dependent on my father's salary, which wasn't always dependable. And I grew up with a lot of lessons that were instilled in me from my grandparents, from my parents, around financial independence. My mother never went to university. Nobody in my family really went overseas to study for university. So in a lot of ways, I did a lot of the first in my family, and I was very much encouraged to do so, because again, the idea, even though I come from a Turkish culture, which can be historically quite conservative, especially around a woman's role in society. I feel, again, lucky that I was in a household that really promoted this idea of you need to be standing on your own feet, you need to be independent, and you need to, and they encourage me to to find the things that I was passionate about so I can get that independence. And that is very core to how I operate today. There was also a lot of focus on solvability of things.
In what way?
You know, when you grow up in an environment where there are, let's say, many challenges to work through, you can have, like, simplistically, two different approaches, right? You can have a very pessimistic, negative approach that says, difficult things happen all the time, time after time, and it creates this indignance towards life, let's say, and a bit of bitterness. Or you can see every challenge that's thrown your way as something that you can overcome. That doesn't mean that you always successfully overcome it, but if you have the encouragement and the mindset of this is a solvable problem, at least I will try to do my best to solve it, then that really builds that resilience. And I think that was kind of the environment that I grew up in.
That's lovely that you had your grandparents and your mother and father there doing that. Very supportive.
Yeah, and I think there are a lot of strong women figures in the family too, and part of it is, again, it has to be cultural because my grandmother, for example, from my dad's side, really wanted to be a lawyer, and she was a very successful student up until end of high school. She did a couple of years in law school and university, but then got married to my grandfather, who didn't let her continue her studies, and she was really bitter about that.
Oh dear.
She ended up being a teacher on the side later in life after having my dad and my uncle. But one of the things that she always felt very strongly about was a woman not being stopped by a male figure in her life.
Because she was constrained.
She was constrained, and if I chose to have the constraints, I was free to have the constraints. But if I wanted to have a different option, and if I wanted to have a different vision for my life, she wanted me to have the freedom to choose that without anybody else defining that for me. When you're exposed to a lot of very opinionated, strong women figures in your life, I consider that lucky, because where you are born is a luck of the draw. And so I think while there were difficulties, there were a lot of elements that kind of baked me in the right ways, let's say, and contributed to, I think, where I am today.
Fantastic. And have you utilised any of that learning in your work environment?
Yeah, I mean, I have this conversation a lot. People think that, when we show up to work, we go through the doors and just become like this different person.
Yes.
Detached from who we are in our real lives. That's not true at all, and that's not how I show up to work. Yes. How I am outside of work, inside of work is the same person, and the values that I have is the same. I just apply it to a professional setting. Yeah. That's just the difference. And so what we just talked about is quite fundamental to my leadership style. I really believe in, I think you and I have talked about this when we were thinking about this call. A lot of leaders make the mistake of thinking about themselves confined to the company that they work for, right? Absolutely, they need to do right by the company, which is important, and they, need to be a manager. They don't really see their role truly as the person who is actually responsible for the development and the professional fulfillment of the people that they're responsible for, which is something I really believe in. And so, one of the big things that I try to instill in my team is the sense of independence, right? I try to hire people who are eager, curious, passionate, have the attitude to roll up their sleeves and learn something. I'm not looking for technical wizards or people who have the perfect resumes. You're looking for aptitude, and you're looking for problem-solving minds, people who have that can-do attitude, which is quite difficult to assess in an interview. We try to, have as many signals as possible, but those are the people that I want to have on my team. And if I get such a group on my team, I should trust them to do the right thing, right? I don't think that we do anybody justice by micromanaging them, directing their work. I want to give them the freedom and the power to show their creativity, show their strengths in the work environment, because my job is to develop them.
Yes.
And ultimately, my job is also to make sure that wherever they are strong at has meaningful business outcomes, or that we tie that to a meaningful business outcome. That's obviously important. The work needs to be contextual, but I don't want them to feel like they need to run everything by me and that they are hindered by kind of my views and my perspective on something.
Yes.
I encourage them to challenge me, and we have those discussions all the time. The other thing that I really care about is, we've got a quite young team, which I think most of the company is relatively young. And
it's quite a vibrant brand, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And they can have a lot of like insecurities around whether they can voice their opinions or not. You get a lot of women and male analysts who are in their mid-20s, early 20s, in rooms with very senior people who are at least very tenured at Wise. And they might feel very shy to express their opinions, or they might feel like when somebody else expresses their opinions that they need to take that as the truth. And I try to encourage them to have a voice, because if you have a perspective and it's well-founded in data especially, you should feel really comfortable to voice that opinion, and be able to challenge decisions respectfully. So these are all conversations that we have on an ongoing basis. I want a confident, like empowered group of people around me, and not silent behind the scene paper pushers. Nobody would want that, but I think getting that like energized, empowered team is actually achieved on the day-to-day interactions.
That's good. How do you do that?
I mean, it's really, I think, first of all, you need to be close to your team's work. And again, what I mean by that isn't necessarily kind of micromanaging like every analysis that they're doing or every interaction that they have, but you need to understand the context in which they're operating, right? So I'm responsible for a relatively large product area. I may not know every single thing that's happening across the teams, but I need to understand the power dynamics. I need to understand the decisions that they might be struggling in. I need to understand the different types of personalities they have, the data challenges. There's a bunch of different contexts that I need to have to then make the conversations that I have on a weekly basis, or sometimes day-to-day basis with some of my direct reports, as meaningful as possible, right? I should be able to very openly say, hey, I know that you're working with this person and they're relatively difficult. How are you feeling about that? Not wait for them to bring up these issues because they might be shy to do so, not sure. But if I just openly go to them and say, this problem is really frustrating, let's talk about that. I think that really creates that open dialogue, and it's those day-to-day interactions, like I said, that really make a difference, I think.
And how have you helped your team evolve? Because obviously you've had massive amount of growth in terms of the team, and I presume you have that diverse team there. How have you evolved that in terms of your leadership style and your team in terms of a diverse team?
So there's two pieces there. One is, how do you scale the team, and then the different layers of leadership that you need to practice, and then there's a diversity bit. So I'll touch on both. So the first one is, like I said, when you enter people management, the very first exposure that you get is, okay, here are a couple of people, lead them. Then you need to figure out how to be a good lead and add value to them. The next level is, okay, the team has grown. Now this person is getting to a point where they might become a manager, they might become a lead. How do you help their growth?
Yep.
And how do you help them get to that next level? And then you end up in a setup where you are leading a lead who has direct reports, which is a totally different type of leading, because now you have skip levels and you need to be able to maintain a vision intactness within your team through somebody else without overstepping.
Yes.
Which is a massively difficult thing for some of the leads, right? I want my leads to have their own flair in their teams. They shouldn't feel like my puppets, like repeating exactly what I'm saying. I want them to be their own kind of lead, but you need to make sure that the general value proposition of the team is still staying intact. So how do you do that in a respectful way? So when I was scaling the team, there were a lot of people that I've promoted internally to become leads. And these people who have been at Wise for a long time have never been, either never worked at somewhere else before, they were kind of homegrown, or they never had people management experience. So I needed to be really thoughtful about how I handle that transition piece from an individual contributor to a lead, and get them to a place where they can feel really confident being a lead. If you take a first-time lead and give them a team of 10, they're going to get really overwhelmed and maybe not want to do a leadership role. So we were really thoughtful about, okay, are there now synergistic team pods that are emerging that a new lead can pick up? So they've got a couple of direct reports, it feels manageable, see how they do there. If they show that they're doing well, we give them slightly more responsibility over time. So I actually feel really proud that a lot of the leads that I have within my area are homegrown, for lack of a better word. And then when we brought people externally into the team, they were, again, from my perspective, excellent hires. They've been with my team for a long time now. We were really thoughtful about bringing in complementary skill sets. Because the team was relatively new and the analytics org didn't exist, we wanted to bring in people who had a bit of a best practices understanding, but who would also be really respectful of the culture and not want to come in and, apply what a traditional bank did in their approach to Wise. So it's really finding that balance. So that's the first bit. That's the kind of how I scaled the team with a internal and external blend. In terms of diversity, this is actually not just me. My lead, Mark, has always felt very strongly about having a very diverse team. I think he was very intentional about, when he was hiring his leads, having an equal representation of men and women within his team.
Brilliant.
And one of the things that we established quite early on in the journey for diversity and representation was really solving it at the top of the funnel. You get a lot of active applicants, but a lot of the quality candidates are sourced in our experience. So we were really clear with our recruitment team that we want them to source a diverse pool. At least people who we were filtering needed to be as equal, 50-50 men and women as possible. And then the second thing is, in the recruitment process or in the interview process, we wanted them to have exposure to a diverse panel, right? So if they are interviewing, let's say 5 rounds, and they're talking to a male at each round, which could be quite common, then that doesn't really incentivize a woman to want to join a company. So being really thoughtful about the hiring process really helped us, I think, have a very diverse group actually in analytics, in the not necessarily just the leadership roles, but in the entry-level positions. And then this challenge was on the leadership roles, right? And again,
that makes it more difficult, doesn't it?
It's so difficult, and it's in 2 folds. One is, how do you find strong female leaders in the market, because the pool keeps getting narrower and narrower. But then the second one is, and I think a lot of companies overlook this, everybody focuses on hiring.
Yeah.
Very few companies actually focus on development.
Yes.
It's one thing to bring people through the door. Again, I've got a lot of female analysts in analyst level, senior analyst level, but the moment you get to the lead level, there's a friction there, and you need to be able to develop these people into these roles.
Absolutely.
And give them the right tools and the guidance and the environment so that they can see themselves growing into these roles.
Yes.
And they have the encouragement to grow into these roles. So yeah, all of these things we've got a bunch of efforts around.
That's fantastic.
Kind of how we approached it.
That's fantastic. It sounds like you've got a good mentor in your boss as well.
Yeah. Definitely.
Have you had any other mentors throughout your career that have helped you progress to where you are to date?
Many.
Yeah.
Again, this is another area that I feel very fortunate in. I had a lot of managers and mentors throughout my career who took a lot of chances on me.
Yes.
And again, that has become, I think, quite fundamental to then my approach of taking a chance on the people around me, because I think it's so important. You want to look for the right signals and then kind of test somebody to see if they can do it, and if they can do it, then just let them run with it. So when I was at LinkedIn, again, this is really rare, but my 3-line managers were all women, which is unheard of in a tech company and in analytics. And I learned a lot from that. And even, I was so early in my career, even being exposed to things like, how do you balance work when you have a young family? Just even how you present yourself in meetings when you're the only woman in a meeting and there are 10 men. How do you watch out for the cues? I remember I was in a meeting, just kind of shadowing a meeting with my manager, who was a woman, and there was one other woman and 12 men in the room. And one of my, it was my manager who had a comment, and then somebody kind of just brushed over it. And then the other lady who was in the room picked up on what my manager was saying and said, just like Erin said, this is what we need to build on. There are many examples like that. But I think I've learned by just being in that environment, the little cues that you need to watch out for, so that if you are a couple of you in a room, or very few of you, how do you watch out for yourself and help each other grow in your careers? But like I said, I had a lot of luck with female leads watching out for me. But it's not a gender thing, right? It's really, if you are a good lead and you feel really invested in the people around you, you will go that. It shouldn't even be called extra mile. Like, you will make that effort. And my current lead now, Mark, like I said, when I was hired, he knew that I had a large company experience, so best practices that I bring in, but I didn't have the scaling experience that I needed to have. And his approach has always been, we are kind of learning this together.
Which is brilliant,
do it.
Isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. You do it. Let me know where you need help. If we get something wrong, we will fix it then.
Yes.
And that has given me so much freedom to find my own style as a leader, to find my own voice as a leader, and be comfortable with where I'm good at and where I might be struggling, and being able to also say in safety, hey, I'm struggling here, because I knew that he would have my back. I think having that trust with the people around you, with your direct reports and your manager, is hugely important.
I like the fact that you shadowed past managers and you learned from them, whether it was how they presented or how what style they projected, and that you've then taken that, adapted it to your own, had the support of your male mentor, and then look at you now. You've just grown so much, which is amazing.
Thank you.
So in terms of next for you, what do you think is the next challenge for you in your career?
I quite like being a manager. I think about my role in three buckets. One is the traditional people management, like coaching, mentoring, which I really like, and I don't think that I'm limited to my work to do that. There are a lot of opportunities to give back and develop people. Even conversations like this, if it resonates with someone, great. The second bit is really around strategy. So I like being in product analytics, and I like thinking about product because I like solving problems. I'm quite logical in the way that I approach issues, and that deductive reasoning and using that to make a solution better is something that gives me a lot of energy. So I think that's something that I want to continue to do. Continue to develop people around me, continue to contribute making products that I care about as valuable as possible. And then the third bit is really more around kind of inspiring the next generation of leaders, whether they are in analytics, in financial services, or in fintech, or really any industry. I really believe in making your career as meaningful as it can be. It's something that I really care about. I think people kind of show up the work or show up to their relationships at work in really transactional ways and then complain that they're not satisfied. If you're spending majority of your time in what you're doing, it needs to add value to you. It needs to add meaning to you. And you need to be of a meaningful presence and a good presence in other people's lives.
So is there any takeaways you would give to those females out there that are perhaps looking for their first rung on the ladder?
I mean, this will not be original at all, but I will repeat it because I really believe in it. We are our biggest blockers.
I do believe that.
And there's just so much fear that you feel when you see a job posting, and females do this more than males, it's just what the data shows. Right? When you see an opportunity and you think, like this, I don't really have all the requirements, or when an opportunity comes up at work where you think, somebody else is probably better suited for it and I'm not, or somebody approaches you and says, hey, I want you to, try yourself at this challenge, and you say to yourself, I don't know if I can actually do this. Just go for it. It is a terrifying experience. You lose nothing if you don't get it, because you wouldn't have gotten it if you didn't apply anyways.
Absolutely.
I think if you just do it as much as possible, it's a numbers game. You will get some opportunities and you will learn and grow from those opportunities. It was the same for me, even for speaking. I was terrified, and I still am. I'm not a very comfortable public speaker. Initially, when people started reaching out, I would say yes, and then I would prepare for days and days and days, literally writing every single thing that I wanted to say. And my excuse was always, English is not my first language, so what if I say the wrong words? And then the more I did it, the more I exposed myself to that terror of public speaking, the easier it gets at some point. And I know everybody says this, and you understand it conceptually, but understanding something conceptually is very different than experiencing it. So when you have a doubt and when you hesitate to go for something, just go for it. Just don't think about it. Don't jump, but just go for the opportunity. That's my biggest advice. And don't take things personally. Again, I mentioned this earlier.
About the CV, rejection, or jobs.
Exactly. Or really anything that you go for, it's really not personal. And I know many people feel like it's personal, because I felt that way too. But as somebody who is hiring, or as somebody who's choosing somebody for the next opportunity for a project or whatever it may be, it's all depends on the need at the time. It depends on the team makeup. It depends on the nature of the project, maybe the difficulty of the people that you have to work with in that project. So you need a specific personality of a person for that project. There could be so many factors for why you're not chosen for something. And you can't take that personally. So I guess go for it. When you get rejected, move on, brush it off, go on to the next thing. It's easy to say, but once you do that a few times, it really gets easier.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you, Hazal.
Yeah, it was lovely to be here. Thank you.
Lovely to meet you. Bye-bye.
Bye.